Right, thank you to the moderator yang berbahagia Datuk Tan Yu Sing, President of Malaysia China Chambers of Commerce, and of course to all the panelists. A very interesting discussion preparing for the next big shift, the trends, pitfalls and response. And I think one important nugget that you can take away from that discussion is that mentioned by Ms. Adriana Zakeh, CEO of Circular Asia Association, sustainability is the way to the future, or sustainability is the future. So better get hold on that. Right, ladies and gentlemen, time for our next session, the third fireside session, sustainability through procurement digitalization. Again, keep those questions coming in, keep the chat box active with your thoughts and opinions and questions. Ask as many as you can. Of course, our speaker will try to address those questions. The speaker for this session is Puan Madinah binti Abang, General Manager, Contract and Procurement Governance of Sarawak Energy Berhad, and the moderator. He is an experienced corporate sustainability practitioner, having led projects that have been featured at the national level and Fortune 500 companies' sustainability documents. He provides advisory and insights for the various private sector, government, and UN agencies on SDGs and corporate sustainability matters. He currently serves as the Executive Director for UN Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei, a local network of the United Nations Global Compact, where he is developing various strategic programs and digital tools to accelerate private sector SDG performance. He is a business sector representative to Malaysia's National SDG Steering Committee and has presented at various national and global sustainability forums. Ladies and gentlemen, I shall pass the floor over to the moderator of the third fireside session, Sustainability through Procurement Digitalization. Over to you, Mr. Faroze Nadar, Executive Director of UN Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei.
Thank you, Rahim, for the kind introduction. And good afternoon to all the participants who are with us for this session. So we have heard throughout the sessions today that sustainability will give profitability advantage to SMEs if done correctly, and of course, without greenwashing. One key pathway to business growth for sustainable SMEs will be via more responsible practices by larger corporates. This fireside session looks to deep dive on the relationship between sustainable procurement demand that will enable sustainable SMEs and supplier transitions, the role of procurement officers in achieving the SDGs as part of a whole of organization approach, and how we must broaden the sustainability narratives to include mega trends such as digitalization, a key enabler for achieving a sustainable world. So today we are delighted to welcome Puan Madinah Abang, who is the GM Contract and Procurement Governance of Sarawak Energy Berhad, to share her views and experiences on sustainability through procurement digitalization. Now, please let me just briefly introduce her. Madinah Abang works at Sarawak Energy Berhad, leading the Contract and Procurement Governance Division and as Head of Transformation to implement procurement optimization initiatives for Sarawak Energy. She is a professional accountant, accorded as a fellow member by the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, UK, and a chartered member of the Malaysian Institute of Accountants. Welcome, Madinah. I would just like to kickstart our Firestarter session today by posing the first question to you. Sarawak Energy Berhad is an energy development company and a vertically integrated power utility with a vision to achieve sustainable growth and prosperity for Sarawak by meeting the region's need for reliable and renewable energy by providing electricity to 3 million Sarawakians in urban and rural areas. It is also expanding its supply reach to other nations in the region. So could you please give us a sense of Sarawak Energy's consumption, what it buys, from whom, the size of your supplier base, and etc. Perhaps a rundown of your procurement practices, if you will. Madinah.
Thank you, Faroze, for the questions. Sarawak Energy is wholly owned by Sarawak government. We are cognizant of the important role we play in boosting the growth of local businesses. Our total procurement value in 2020 is about RM 1.4 billion. about a large percentage of these, 89% were awarded to local companies, and the balance to international companies, about 11%. By local, we actually refer to Sarawakian and non-Sarawakian Malaysian companies. In terms of what we buy, there are three types of procurement: works, goods, and services. Works such as construction, civil engineering, mechanical, electrical works. Goods such as transformers, buying of cables, steel poles, pipes, building materials, equipment, chemical supplies, vehicles, for example. Yeah. Services such as transportation, geological survey, soil investigation, consultancy services. In terms of the supply base, we engage more than 2,500 vendors, comprising of local and international companies. So this is just a brief rundown of our procurement for Sarawak Energy.
Thank you, Madinah. Could you perhaps briefly also just share how does Sarawak Energy view the SDGs in terms of engaging on adopting and accelerating it?
Yeah, in terms of, we are very focused in our sustainability agenda. Yeah, we are focusing on 6 UN SDG goals with a focus. The 6 SDG goals are, for example, SDG 6 on clean water and sanitation, SDG 7 affordable and clean energy, SDG 8 decent work and economic growth, SDG 11 sustainable cities and communities, and of course very important, SDG 13 on climate action, and SDG 17 partnership for the goals. Yeah.
Thank you, Madinah. Now, following up with that, right? Sarawak Energy is the first corporate to commit to science-based target, right? And congratulations to that. Showing the commitment towards climate actions. Now, could you also share the fact that now Sarawak Energy is very committed towards tangible climate actions? How could this perhaps have changed the procurement approach or strategy in Sarawak Energy, and perhaps even the SME engagement and vendor experience as a whole?
Okay. In Sarawak Energy, we actually aspire to become a digital utility by 2025. We have embarked on enterprise modernization by leveraging on ICT. The Sarawak Energy e-procurement system, SEPRO for short, was rolled out in stages from 2018. This is very relevant and timely in this new era of economic transformation. Optimizing our cost of doing business or creating value involves revamping our policies and procedures to achieve high-level services. Procurement digitalization has proven to be the right step in the right direction with many benefits derived. It improves our tendering processes, transparency in tendering processes. It changes time-consuming manual procurement processes, migration into a more automated and efficient digital platform. You just imagine, Faroze, for example, just a mere tender opening. Before, we used to do manual tender opening, and it took us about 90 minutes on average just to open one tender. But we have to handle stacks and stacks of boxes of tender documents. But with digitalization, everything is done online. It only took us about 2 minutes just to open one tender. So you can just imagine the time saving is from 20 minutes to 2 minutes. That's about 90% of savings. Yeah. And in addition to that, also we have new application tools. For example, real-time bidding, which allows active competition between the vendors, and it results in improved savings as well. Yeah. To the vendors, yeah, digitalization means they don't need to pay any more tender document fees. They don't have to buy any more tender documents, as everything is done online. So they save on tender fees. They don't need to print boxes and boxes of tender documents for submission. And they can, in fact, have an option to even create invoices directly in the system and automatically submit to Sarawak Energy. So they on the vendor side, the they have time savings as well. Minimal spending on papers, printing. There's no need to courier documents and even dispatch documents as well. Yeah.
So Madinah, just out of curiosity, picking up your sharing that your vendors actually have options to also print e-invoices using your digital platform, right? Do you see a lot of your SMEs doing that, or do you think they still stick to that? I need to see a printed invoice going out.
Yeah, it is picking up actually among our vendors, but we do have to sell that idea to them and try to encourage them to go into e-invoicing. Yeah.
Right.
So it all involves still whatever it is on digitalization or be it sustainability agenda. I would say like change management process needs to take place. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure also Sarawak Energy and your SME suppliers were no exception was impacted by the pandemic, right? Perhaps you share some thoughts on your and also experience, right, in terms of how the procurement processes in Sarawak Energy was affected by the pandemic and its impact to your SME vendors.
Yeah, I would say that digitalization has more than proven its effectiveness in managing the business. It is the reason we were able to continue with our sourcing operations during the pandemic with minimal interruptions. Yeah? By transacting online during the pandemic, it means there is minimal physical contact as all tenders and quotations are submitted online. And more so important for vendors, they can actually maximize tender submission time until right near to the closing date, which is very much needed, especially during this pandemic, where more time is needed to assess the situation and impact to the business. If you imagine if during the manual time, tenderers would need to get ready the documents at least a week or 2 weeks before, get it binded, everything before they submit to us. But now with online submission, they can just even like a day before they hit the button to submit. So they have more time to do their research and what's the impact of the pandemic to the business. Yeah.
So again, just speaking on that, now that things are opening up again, right? We can meet in people and things like that. Do you foresee that digitalization stickiness will continue for your vendors, or do you foresee that there will be some reverting back to some kind of hybrid approach back again?
Oh, okay. When we go for digitalization, there is no hybrid approach. Is a full digitalization, but we do have to play a role on guiding and educating our vendors on how to go about submission of tenders and how to go about digitalization if they want to participate in our procurement activities. Yeah. So whether it's pre or post pandemic, digitalization is to stay for our procurement activities.
Right. So I'm sure as part of your process of vendor selection and awardings and things like that, you definitely will look at your vendors' performance, right? Perhaps you could share in your experience how has your vendors going digital, or even your procurement approach going digital has affected your suppliers' performance to become more positive as well.
Yeah. Before digitalization, in terms of vendor performance information, is scattered across the organization. But with digitalization, we have this vendor performance management platform in SEPRO, the e-procurement system, where we can see a single source of truth on vendors' performance. There's this our vendor 360 profile, which provides information about vendors' details on who they are, who owns them, who are their directors, all this information about the vendors, and also most importantly, information about their performances as well. So it's not just about performance within a single unit division. For example, if they are our supplier for transformers, say for example under our transmission department. But it will also show if they have also supplied transformers to the other departments as well. And we can actually see a single source of truth information about how they perform across SEB. Yeah. And with this vendor performance management, we can actually derive the vendor scorecards, and we can analyze it and even see where are the areas of improvement that we can take further action with the vendors, be it via capability programs. And these programs you can actually co-create it with the vendors as well. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Moving on, right? No, when supply chains are done wrong, right, by not taking into consideration of the environmental, social, and governance or ESG performance of suppliers, large corporates such as yourselves can leave yourselves open to significant operational and reputational risk, right? So for SMEs supplying to big companies, this could mean losing businesses or even worse, being blacklisted. So what are your thoughts on this, and what are the initiatives that Sarawak Energy can refer SME vendors to avoid this from happening?
It is pertinent that vendors adopt best practices in delivering their products and services. Indeed, we do need to take into consideration the ESG performance of our vendors. Otherwise, we will be also open to significant operational and reputational risks, such as those arising from non-compliance to relevant laws and regulations. Yeah. I think, Faroze, you know that United Nations Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei have developed the SME ESG assessment tool in collaboration with the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. This tool, known as ACCESS, stands for Action Center for Sustainable SMEs, allow assessment of SME sustainability performance, where gaps and indicators that require improvement will be identified. It will also enable corporate buyers such as us to actually identify capacity building opportunities for our vendors for a more resilient supply chain. To your question about what are the initiatives Sarawak Energy can refer to, Sarawak Energy is actually collaborating with UNGCMYB to onboard our SME vendors for 3 initiatives. First initiative is the Maju Framework Training. This will actually make it easy for SMEs to take their first step towards sustainability journey. This framework was designed to help SMEs identify and leverage sustainability as a source for growth and adapt to globalization. Another initiative is the My SDG Ambition SME Index. Under this initiative, each SME will have an SDG scorecard and rating, highlighting sustainability gaps to continuously improve supply chain performance for sustainability. And another initiative is the Sustainability Linked Supply Chain Financing. Under this initiative, SME vendors can actually access to working capital financing at attractive rates and hence improve their cash flows. How they do this? They can actually utilize the buyer's credit rating that explicitly factors climate change, environment, and governance criteria in credit assessment. Yeah.
Thank you, Madinah. Now, it's also, of course, very important when we talk about the whole supply chain to ensure the integrity and everybody's aligned across board, right? Perhaps you would like to share, what would be some of the fundamental approaches to ensure ESG integration across your supply chain. So whether you're big and smaller SME vendors, what, in your opinion, what would those be?
The factors, is it?
Yeah, key factors to ensure ESG integration happens across your supply chain. Yeah.
Okay, but like what I mentioned earlier, it's more like awareness. First of all, awareness has to be there. Yeah, people will not do anything if they don't know what it's all about. So, so this awareness program must be in place, be it to SME vendors or other vendors, and trying. This is about change management and trying to get people on board and accepting the idea about how important is it on the to align ourselves to SDGs. Yeah.
So Madinah, procurement officers are often, I believe, undervalued change agent towards is achieving sustainability within corporates, because you can definitely influence the decision making that's taken by your suppliers, especially SME suppliers, right? In your many years of experience, how do you think procurement officers can take a more prominent role to push the sustainability agenda within the organizations and also influence the supply chain as well?
I would say for us procurement officers, we need to open our mind to all this agenda and work together with our SDG department, and see how we can actually be participative towards this SDG agenda. Like what I mentioned just now, SDG 12 is very relevant to procurement.
Right. And oftentimes, sometimes when your suppliers maybe trying to tell you how sustainable they are, maybe they may oversell themselves, right? So how then can procurement officers then prod properly that whatever is being shared in terms of ESG credentialing by suppliers is real and it's just not some sort of greenwashing, so to speak? How do you think procurement officers can engage better to understand this?
We need to work very closely with our sustainability department side, because they are the one that's more experts on these sustainability development goals. And we also have to open our mind and see, understand better whether and not be taken for a ride if say vendors say they are over the top about SDGs. So we have to escalate our knowledge on that as well.
Right. So we have a couple of questions from the floor. I would just like to start on this. So could you perhaps share some best practices that's undertaken by Sarawak Energy to encourage change among SME suppliers? I suppose a change towards becoming more sustainable, right? Are you providing some incentives or maybe even some stick, right? Is there anything in the works? Perhaps you'd like to share?
I can't say about incentives and all that, but like what I say, we are collaborating with UNGCMYB on about the three different initiatives. And this is the first step that we are doing to onboard our SME vendors on this sustainability agenda. Yeah.
Right. So Madinah,
so it's more like having frequent engagement with the vendors on this agenda.
Right. So on that note, I just like to build on that. Perhaps let's say we switch caps a bit, right? So let's say now a SME supplier would like to engage Sarawak Energy, right? And in all things being equal in terms of price, quality, between two different SME suppliers, this SME would like to showcase their sustainability credential as the value add for you to pick them, right? How would you like to hear how this SME is going to sell or share their sustainability strategy approach or credentials so that you would pick them over another perhaps less sustainable supplier?
Yeah, probably if they can actually show to us what are the achievements on this SDG, and also whether they actually can show the action plans, the things, the outcome that they have actually achieved. So it has to be, there has to be evidence on what they are telling us. Cannot be just words of mouth without any evidence. Then we can actually use those information for our evaluation of whether who has actually the competitive edge. If you are comparing like one between two vendors and one has that edge, of course we can consider that vendor as having that edge over the other, and most likely to be the one getting the award.
Yeah, and suppose, perhaps the vendors could leverage on this digitalization approach, right, to make more transparent disclosures, right, ensure that, this data that they're sharing is actually traceable, right? So I suppose this is where how the digitalization approach also add value to procurement officers to pick the sustainable SME to have an edge across a non-sustainable SME, I suppose, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
like for example, the My SDG Ambition Index, for example, that will actually give us a good scorecard of where the vendors stand, so we can actually take that into account when we evaluate the vendors. Yeah.
Right. So a question that just popped in, I think quite interesting question, right? A personal question, a personal opinion question to you, right? Which one do you think actually works best to ensure more sustainable suppliers, the carrot or stick approach?
Not an easy question to answer, yeah. Probably like normally like people would be more adaptable or more open to what we are going to sell if you're actually giving the carrot approach, right, rather than the stick approach. Stick is always about penalizing, about giving sentences and sort of things. So I would say it all depends on the situation, whether it's a carrot or a stick approach, on how serious the issue is. Yeah.
Right. We're running short of time. I also would like to take this opportunity to get your thoughts. As somebody who is leading a procurement side, what would be your advice to procurement officers, right, in terms of getting on board this whole sustainability agenda? And maybe, let's say, their own corporations may not have sustainability focused departments. How can they be the change agents themselves to advocate this message across? Because, scope 3, the whole supply chain is very important for sustainability agenda, right? So how can we also recognize procurement officers as key change agents if really you want to push for a whole of organization approach towards creating more sustainable corporates and also SMEs?
Yeah, knowledge is key. Yeah, before for you to be able to sell that approach, you must have the knowledge what this is all about and what is what your organization can target on this agenda. Then after that, then you can think about what the action plans that you can take up. Where are the gaps that you need to fill to actually achieve your outcome towards this agenda? Yeah.
Thank you, Madinah. Now, thank you for that very insightful sharing, right, on this. Now, to the participants, if you would like to know a bit more about some of the initiatives that Madinah was sharing in terms of a collaboration, like the Maju and things like that, you can hit the resource tab right there, and you can download some of the information to know more on that. Now, again, in light of time, again, Madinah, please join me in virtual applause for Madinah for her time today. And from UNGC Malaysia perspective, we are really excited to be able to embark with Sarawak Energy for many of their initiatives. And the fact that Sarawak Energy is an unlisted company but driving sustainability for a passion, from a purpose perspective, right? I think these are really the kind of organizations that will create a better and more sustainable future for us in Malaysia as well. So thank you, Madinah, for your insights.
Thank you.
With that, I pass over back to Rahim. Thank you.
Thank you, Faroze.
Malaysia and Brunei, and of course to our speaker Puan Madinah Abang, General Manager Contract and Procurement Governance of Sarawak Energy Berhad, for a very interesting and lively discussion on sustainability through procurement digitalization. Right, ladies and gentlemen, guys, it's time for another short break. In the meantime, during this break, please do visit our exhibition booth featuring companies such as UN Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei, Buy for Impact from Magic, Forest Interactive, and Nutrition Technologies Sendirian Berhad. Feel free to have a chat with their representative to understand how each organization is helping to accelerate the SDGs. So let's go for a short break, and when we come back, it's time for a revolution. Yep, it's the SME Digital Revolution when we come back at 3:45. So I'll see you in 15 minutes time. Be sure to stay right here and keep the chat box active with your thoughts, ideas, opinions, and questions. And of course, the moderator will select, and the speakers will answer some of your questions, as many as they can. Right, I'll see you at 3:45.